The essence of camp is its love of the unnatural, of artifice and exaggeration. Susan Sontag. Nothing in the substance is natural. The closest we get are shots of the tops of palm trees, a momentary escape from the dirty streets of Los Angeles. An artificial world meticulously crafted to reflect the world in and around its main character. Everything in the substance holds symbolic purpose, from a yellow trench coat to the distorted reflection of a doorknob. The substance is storytelling through visual means, minimal dialogue, and heavy, at times infuriatingly direct theming. The film doesn't bludgeon you over the head with its themes so much as it drowns you in them until you're literally gasping for air by the final act. It isn't surprising that multiple people walked out of my screening of the film between intense, uncomfortably long close-ups and excruciatingly detailed body horror. The substance is truly unrelenting. It's a 2.5-hour cry of rage against an industry and society built to dehumanize women and profit by destroying their self-esteem. It spotlights a critical issue with a society obsessed with body image, constantly being compared to unhealthy standards of beauty and bombarded with products to fix something that is inherently unbroken. But in this case, the old saying, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it," doesn't stand. Oh no, that's not profitable. In this case, if they aren't broke, then give them the tools to break themselves. Give them false promises of perfection and youth. Give them the substance.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. One single injection unlocks your DNA, starting a new cellular division that will release another version of yourself. This is the substance.
So smile!
The substance.
The substance follows a woman named Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, a character whose last name is as corny and on the nose as humanly possible without just calling her Elizabeth Shining Star. Before we know anything about Elizabeth as a person, we know this: she is a star. Well, was a star.
Take care of yourself.
On her 50th birthday, Elizabeth finds out that she is being replaced as the host of her own morning workout show.
How the old bitch has been able to stick around for this long. That's the fucking mystery to me.
Dennis Quaid plays her sleazy producer with zeal and depravity rarely seen in live action.
At 50, well, it stops.
There is no subtlety to the men in this film. They are all animals who want one thing, who only see one thing and use it to hold power over Elizabeth as well as the other women in the film. Quaid is the epitome of this misogyny incarnate, a feral animal that views women solely as objects to suck dry until a fresh new model piques his interest. It is at this point, the moment when Elizabeth believes her career is over, that she learns about the substance. A miracle medication that unlocks a younger, better you. Plastic surgery, Weight Watchers, and Ozempic have nothing on the substance. This is the end-all be-all wonder drug. At first she is reluctant. She doesn't need some kind of wonder drug to solve her issues, but she keeps seeing them, reminders of her physical imperfections, her age, her reflection. It's a rather lengthy build-up to reinforce in the audience that this woman has nothing else. Her apartment is barren except for a single chair and a television, and of course, all of her beautiful awards. She has no family, no friends to call on for support. She only has her career, a career defined by physical beauty. And now, even that is gone, so she decides to try the substance. Obtaining the substance is about as sketchy as getting a BBL in a white van parked down the back alley of a Waffle House. The instructions are vague at best, providing little to no information besides activate, stabilize, and switch. These instructions come with the most important reminder: you are one. What occurs upon injecting the substance cannot be shown on YouTube. It's a visceral, violent separation of the self, with a younger, more beautiful, almost perfect self erupting from Elizabeth's spine. This younger self is named Sue. But the substance comes with a caveat. The two must switch bodies every 7 days, and while one is awake, the other lies unconscious on the bathroom floor. Sue gets the position replacing Elizabeth on her show, and is showered with affirmation and affection from all the men.
I'm Sue, and it's time to pump it up. Are you ready? Let's go.
A non-stop adrenaline trip being pumped into her system and ours, fueled by electronic beats, kinetic editing, and an electrifying performance by Quayle.
And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
It's as if the camera becomes the male gaze, as it objectifies every inch of her body. This rush doesn't last though. After 7 days, she has to go back to being Elizabeth, back to the body she hates. And thus begins the tragedy of the substance. This is only the first act. The second sees the two push and pull each other, leading to a tumultuous final act that has to be seen to be believed. But I'm not going to talk about that. Go see the movie if you're still interested. It's a hell of a ride.
'Cause I saw that thing. That thing came in here when I was on the couch.
It's a pig! What the f?
Instead, I want to look at the inspirations behind the film and the very real epidemic at its heart. Female-centered body horror often follows the trend of focusing on pregnancy, childbirth, and the removal of agency from its female characters. The majority of these themes are emphasized by male creators, from Polanski's haunting Rosemary's Baby to Garland's recent Men. These films are so concerned with the concept of women giving birth that each film climaxes around or during a birth scene. These films purport that there is nothing more horrifying for a man than to be a woman, specifically a woman in labor. Cronenberg's The Brood turned mother and child into a hellish abomination to shine a light on the lengths a mother would go to protect her children.
No, I disgust you. I sicken you. You hate me.
And his later film, Dead Ringers, deals with the power struggles men, in this case a set of twin gynecologists, have over women. His works have proved formative for many genre filmmakers, creating modern body horror works. Julia Ducournau's Titan takes many of his themes and reiterates on them through a queer lens. The merging of human and machine, the eroticism of violence, but it also introduced something rarely seen in male-created body horror, the reflection of the self and the disgust that comes when your body does not fit the ideal you aspire to. Both Alexia and her surrogate father Vincent struggle with their bodies. In Alexia's case, it is, of course, some kind of baby growing within her. It's always gotta be a baby. However, Vincent's bodily struggles were more interesting to me. An aging firefighter who lost both his son and wife, Vincent is often seen judging himself in the mirror, analyzing and despising his body. He injects himself with steroids in order to try to cling on to his muscular body, to cling on to his youth. It's a very common occurrence in our beauty-obsessed society for both men and women. It's body dysmorphic disorder. The National Library of Medical Sciences defines body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, as an unrecognized yet relatively common and severe mental disorder that occurs around the world. Patients with BDD believe they look ugly or deformed, thinking, for example, that they have a large and repulsive nose or severely scarred skin, when in reality they look normal. As a result of their appearance concerns, they may stop working and socializing, become housebound, or even commit the word YouTube won't allow here. Individuals with BDD obsess that there is something wrong with how they look, even though the perceived appearance flaw is actually minimal or non-existent. They may describe themselves as looking unattractive or deformed, or even hideous, or like a monster. Coralie Farger, director of The Substance, talked with Collider about how the movie was based on her own self-image and the pent-up frustration she had.
Since I'm a kid, I think about how, I have to live with my own image and how I learned to be super violent about it. And it made me feel that I was never good enough. And at each age, you have a reason that you can find that something not enough. And I questioned myself about the violence of it. And when I was past my 40s and aiming to my 50s, it became even more violent that now this is it. I'm going to be erased. It's the end of it. And I felt that it was so absurd, but at the same time so real, this thought being here, that I wanted to say, okay, I have to do something with it. It's time now to kind of say enough. I want to let this, violence go out and hopefully make a change.
It's a constant struggle that many of us experience. In a world filled with products whose sole purpose is to convince you that you are not attractive, it becomes less of if you have body dysmorphia and more how severe is it. Makeup, TikTok filters, plastic surgery, all of these tools are used to make you appear better. But what starts out as one skincare product, one surgery, turns into a multi-billion-dollar industry as you are told you need to fix one more thing. That is how Farger thought up The Substance, the wonder drug to fulfill that need to be better, to be perfect. The catch? You're in two separate bodies. One body with everything you could ever want, the other with all the flaws and issues you despise. Two halves of the whole that, over time, will begin to feel like completely separate entities. The perfect one and the flawed one, the unlovable one.
I'm fine.
The whole idea of the movie is like to make people understand why we think we have no choice but to chase that, because that's the only way. I think for a long time society has valued women, like through their appearance, through the fact that they are young, that they are sexy, that they can give birth, and as soon as, so that's the way that you build for yourself some way to be loved, some way to have a place in the world. And when this go away, no one doesn't want to have a place in the world anymore. No one wants to disappear. So I think many of us think that the only way to still have a place, to still have an existence, to still have people loving us is through seeking, eternal youth or like hypersexualization. And so I wouldn't blame anyone for just wanting to exist.
You see, all my life, my physical beauty has served as a source of inspiration to me and to countless others. But now that beauty seems to be fading, and I'm scared. I've never had to do without it, and I don't know if I can. I don't mind growing older, just as long as I always look the same. So there's no doubt about it. I don't care what the risks are. I definitely intend to have this surgery.
Farger created a literal on-screen depiction of the mind and body waging war on itself as Elizabeth and Sue fight to be the dominant being. Every moment of success for Sue is seen with loathing by Elizabeth, who then utilizes her own insecurities about food to torture her counterpart. Sue likewise despises Elizabeth,
Jurassic Fitness, really.
the one thing in her way to having a full life. While watching the film, you can't help but think, oh, I'd do it differently. I'd take care of my other half. But anyone seeking the substance has already doomed themselves. They lack the belief that they are enough and seek perfection from an undeniably tempting elixir. Farge admits that even she would take the substance.
I mean, yes, I mean, like, who wouldn't want to take it? I mean, like, that's the problem. I think, like, even when you know that it's gonna destroy you, you know, even when you know what it's gonna do, like, I think when you have so much pressure on you, when you feel that it's really gonna make a difference about the place you're gonna have in society, like, I think you're ready to go again with the devil, you know? I think it's like the Faustian Pact. And to be honest, like, having written The Substance and made this film about it, maybe if it was existed, I would take it.
The movie then becomes less about what society is doing to Elizabeth and more about what she is doing to herself.
Has she started yet? Eating away at you?
How she is destroying herself due to her own self-hatred. One of Demi Moore's most riveting scenes occurs during the second act. Sue is finding success as Elizabeth's replacement, and Elizabeth is trying to find some reason to keep living. Having lost the affirmation of her co-workers in Hollywood, she reaches out to a previous schoolmate who only views her as,
"You're still the most beautiful girl in the whole wide world."
After preparing to go out, she spots Sue's passed out body in the storage room, fixates on her simple makeup and glossy lips. Elizabeth hurries back to the mirror and switches out her lip gloss. Feeling better, she heads out again, this time seeing a full body shot of Sue on the billboard outside her window. Back to the mirror she goes, this time covering up parts of her body, parts that may be a little too wrinkly compared to the perfect skin of Sue. Again and again she goes back to the mirror, changing her makeup, changing her outfit. It isn't enough. It's never enough. Finally, she makes it to the door, where she is confronted by her distorted reflection in the doorknob, a funhouse mirror version of herself, and yet it is the version of herself that she sees everywhere. In a powerful shot, Elizabeth tears and claws away at her face, filled with anger, hatred, and violence towards herself, her body, and everyone and everything that made her feel this way. This is the horror of The Substance, the horror of self-hatred and body dysmorphia that renders you unable to leave your home without the fear of having your visage judged.
What the f*** is this world? What have they done to us?
It isn't just Elizabeth who has these feelings. It was many of the women starring in and working on the film. Margaret Qualley, who played Sue, discussed how she worked out for weeks to get fit to play the perfect woman, and yet no matter how long or how hard she worked out, she just couldn't meet Farge's vision. Unfortunately, there's no magic boob potion. We had to glue those on, she added. Coralie found an incredible prosthetic team to endow me with a rack of a lifetime, just not my lifetime. When being interviewed about the prosthetics to turn her into the ideal woman, Qualley discussed how it only made her more aware of her bodily flaws and inadequacies.
I guess just like the reality is that I didn't realize how like emotionally challenging that was going to be to try to look perfect.
She too went from being perfection every day on set to being just another normal woman without the perfect bosom and movie magic. Qualley's perfect body is completely artificial. The ideas of perfection are completely artificial. Farge described her idea for Sue's character as having the measurements of Jessica Rabbit, the epitome of sex appeal, and a figure whose hourglass waist is so thin it would snap under the actual pressure of her upper body.
I'm not bad,
I'm just drawn that way.
So why is the substance so extreme? The intense close-ups, the lingering shots on the body, specifically the booty, the bold, vibrant colors, the pounding techno soundtrack.
I'm Sue.
It's all to emphasize the artificiality of this world. It pushes extremely serious themes in the most theatrical, heightened ways possible. It's camp. Susan Sontag stated, "Camp is art that proposes itself seriously, but cannot be taken altogether seriously because it is too much." If there's any way to describe the substance, it is too much. Every element of the movie is designed to overstimulate you, and by doing so, it becomes overwhelming. It almost feels as though you, like Elizabeth, are drowning in this world of style and beauty. And yet, no matter how serious some scenes may get, no matter how gruesome the gore becomes, the final act turns everything on its head. The final 30 minutes sees all of Elizabeth's anger released on screen in a way I won't spoil, but many individuals will see these moments and find them comical. Many people, myself included, couldn't help but giggle a few times. It is nearly impossible to take the final act of the movie seriously, and that feels almost entirely intentional. Camp is the sensibility of failed seriousness, of the theatricalization of experience. Camp refuses the harmonies of both traditional seriousness and the risks of fully identifying with the extreme states of feeling. Before you can become fully comfortable with the heavy themes being displayed and explored on screen, they go absolutely insane and push the limits of what you'd see in almost any other horror film. It surges past the Cronenberg inspiration and dives deep into a more lighthearted era of the horror genre. And yet, despite the giggles that might come out, you know deep down that what you're seeing is tragic. Your brain can't register that something so ridiculous could be sad, devastating even. By eliciting these strangely joyous moments in the finale, Farge is able to utilize camp in order to entertain the audience, as well as re-emphasize the themes of body dysmorphia and how we view ourselves. It's a violent release of all the pent-up aggression against a society that profits off our own self-hatred, against the powerful men who manipulate and judge, and most of all, ourselves. Without the camp elements of the third act, the film would just be another Dorian Gray, or Death Becomes Her. The final act is a momentary release for both the creators and the audience from a society we know we cannot change. A scream into the void that may serve no point other than catharsis. And yet, it is a scream that is resonating with people. Farge's vision has become a viral sensation online, sparking memes and viral discourse. Through the camp, through the unserious nature of the final act, Farge has created something that tackles universal struggles of self-image in a way both accessible and entertaining. Farge proposes that we all have a monster inside us, and in a society where we cannot escape the self-hatred and bodily shame, we must embrace the monster and revel in the moments of utter abandon. Thanks for watching. I hope this encourages some of you who don't typically watch body horror to give the substance a try. Just squint or look away when it gets to be too much. I'd like to thank my executive producer Blake Partridge, as well as Moa Chicken, for doing the art assets for my avatar. If you'd like to support me, then please engage with the video in some way, like commenting or hitting all those buttons. You know how to do it. If you really want to support me and see scripts as well as early edits, then you can head on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/obliviousben. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.
I should just say, it is very, very gory and bloody by the end, and your performance is so gutsy and brave. Brave.
Control!